Hello students, now we will start with the topic environment. Our surrounding is called our environment. All living things will depend on their surrounding. So whatever is around us, that is called what? The environment. And this will affect the growth and development of an organism. So in the environment there are two components, living components and non-living components. Living components are called the biotic components and non-living components are called the abiotic components. And the biotic components include plants, animals, microorganisms, and the abiotic components include light, air, water, soil, like this. So environment is a surrounding and there are two types of components, living and non-living, the biotic and the abiotic components. So now we will discuss about the biotic components. That means the organisms that have the life. The living components are called what? Biotic components. So just now I told that living components are plants, animals and microorganisms also. This also includes scavengers, decomposers. Because scavengers and decomposers are what? Included in the plants and animals. Okay, so these are scavengers who eat on the dead and decaying matters, the dead matter, and decomposers will feed on the decaying matters. So plants, now we will discuss about the plants. See, as I just now told that scavengers will feed on the dead bodies and decomposers will feed on the decaying bodies. So plants are green in color, and those plants that are green in color contains what? Chlorophyll in them. Chlorophyll is the pigment that is present in the leaves of the plants. So chlorophylls will have the ability to make the food by using what? Sunlight, water, carbon dioxide. So in the presence of chlorophyll, wherever there is chlorophyll in the green plants will make their own food by the use of sunlight, water and carbon dioxide. What they will make? Food. And this process is called what? Photosynthesis. So the process by which the green plants make their food by using carbon dioxide, water, sunlight and chlorophyll is called what? Photosynthesis. Here photo means light and synthesis is to produce. Okay, so all the green plants will perform photosynthesis for the production of the food. Now we will discuss about the animals. The animals are called the heterotrophs. Why the animals are called the heterotrophs? Because they cannot make their own food as the green plants do. So they are called the heterotrophs. They cannot make their own food. So plants and animals need what? Nutrients for the growth. You all know this. And plants and animals need the nutrients to grow. So plant will absorb the nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium from the soil, and the animals will get their nutrients by eating the flesh of other animals or the plants. Okay, and whenever there is death of any organism, then the nutrients return to the system, to the environment. Okay, so plants will get their nutrients from the soil, animals will get their nutrients by feeding on the plants, or those who are flesh eating will get from the bodies of other animals. Okay, and when these plants and animals will die, then the nutrients will go back to the environment again, because their bodies decompose and nutrients are returned to the soil. Next you can see scavengers and decomposers. Scavengers feed on the dead animals like vultures, hyena, and decomposers will break down the dead bodies of the plants and animals like bacteria and fungi. Okay, so you have the scavengers and decomposers, those who are feeding on the dead bodies. These dead animals are eaten by scavengers and decomposers will break down the dead bodies. And what are the examples of decomposers? Bacteria, fungi. What are the examples of scavengers? Hyena, vulture. So as you can see that the plants have their own way of taking the food. The animals take in the food by feeding on others. And scavengers feed on the dead animals. Decomposers feed on the dead bodies. That is, they break down the dead bodies. They feed on the decaying matter. So in nature we can see that the nutrients that are released from the dead bodies, who will release the nutrients? By scavengers and the decomposers. So they release the nutrients from the dead bodies and they are mixed with the soil. Then they are absorbed by the plants. This is called what? Recycling of the nutrients. The plants and animals, while living, they contain a lot of nutrients, and when they die, they decompose, and then the nutrients are released in the soil, which are again absorbed by the plants. This is called what? Recycling of nutrients. So scavengers and decomposers have a very important role in the environment, because what they do? They keep the environment clean by decomposing and eating away the dead plants and animals. If there will be no scavengers or decomposers, then the earth will be full of what? Dead bodies. So they keep the environment clean by feeding on them, and they help in recycling of the nutrients. Next, as you all know that all the organisms interact among each other. So we will discuss now the interaction among biotic components. See, plants and animals depend on each other for different purposes. Animals depend on plants for what? For food and shelter. You all know that the animals who are herbivorous will eat the plants, and most of the animals have their homes in the plants. And animals, how they help? By pollinating the flowers or dispersing the seeds. Okay. So in nature we can see the interaction between the biotic components. See here, the plants are called the producers because they produce what? Their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Then those who eat the plants, such as deer, these are called the primary consumers, or these are the herbivores. Plant eating organisms are called what? Herbivores. They feed on the producers. Next we come to the carnivores, that is secondary consumers, who feed on the primary consumers, that is the herbivores. Carnivores feed on other animals. These carnivores are example what? Tiger and lion, like this type of animals who feed on others. These are called what? Secondary consumers. And omnivores, who feed on both the animals and the plants. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. So we have producers, we have primary consumer, secondary consumer, and at last we have the scavengers and decomposers. So the scavengers and decomposers feed on the dead plants and animals. They decompose and they release the nutrients into the soil. Then again the nutrients are absorbed by the plants. Then with these nutrients the plants grow. Okay. So what you can see here, the plants are producers, the herbivores are primary consumers, they are dependent on the plants. Carnivores are secondary consumers. Omnivores, they feed on both plants and animals. Then scavengers and decomposers, they decompose and eat on the dead bodies to bring back the nutrients in the soil again. These nutrients are again absorbed by the plants for their growth and development. Now we will talk about the abiotic components. As you can see, abiotic components means non-living, like light, air, water, soil, temperature. These are examples of what? Abiotic components, non-living. But they have an effect on the biotic components. All are interrelated. In an environment, the abiotic and biotic components are interrelated. So they have a fixed purpose. So what is the function of the light? Plants use their light, sunlight, to prepare their own food. Sometimes the growth of the plants also depend on the availability and the duration of light. Some of the crops such as maize and cotton, they grow in summer because that time the day length is more and exposure to the light is more. So some of the plants grow in more light, some of the plants grow in very less light. So plants use their light, surrounding light, sunlight, okay, to prepare their food for their growth and development. The duration and availability of light is very important. So light also affects the biotic component, that is the plant. Our life, the soul energy, is sunlight. Next, we will talk about temperature, which is also the abiotic component. The non-living component of nature is temperature along with light. And what is this temperature? This is the measure that will tell us that how cold or hot an object is. So when you have fever, you use a thermometer to find out your body's temperature. That means how hot or cold you are. So the value that is shown in the thermometer will give that measurement. So this measurement is called what? The temperature. So the temperature of the earth is the most suitable for life to exist. And on earth, the temperature is also not uniform all around. Near to the equator, the temperature is quite high, and nearer to the poles, it is very cold. So temperature affects the distribution of plants and animals. You all know, in the equatorial region, direct sunlight is there, so there will be lots of problems. And in the tropical region, along with the sunlight, the temperature and the situation of the climate is also very favorable. So in the tropical region, distribution of plants and animals are much more compared to any other region. Then we can see there are different types of animals. So here, cold-blooded organisms, the body temperature changes with the outside temperature, like reptiles and amphibians. They are, and insects also, they are cold-blooded. So due to the change in the outside temperature, their body temperature also changes. So this is called what? Cold-bloodedness. And for the warm-blooded mammals and birds, the temperature does not change with the outside temperature. So they are called what? Warm-blooded. Now, the cold-blooded animals cannot adjust with the change in the temperature outside. So, what they will do? They will sleep, they will take rest, they will go to dormant, inactive phase. So, this way they adjust themselves. But the warm-blooded animals can survive in desert also and in the Arctic region also, having the extreme temperatures. And cold-blooded animals will have to take rest during the extreme conditions of the weather. They will go to dormant stage or inactive stage or sleeping stage. Polar bear is also adapted to the harsh temperatures of the Arctic. They are adapted to adjust with them, with the surroundings, and during some part of the harsh winter months, they have to take rest, they have to sleep, they have to be inactive. So they are adapted to survive in the harsh temperatures of the Arctic. Okay. Next we come to air. So air is also very important for the survival because air contains what? Oxygen and carbon dioxide. This is very important for the survival of the organisms. Both plant and the animals need oxygen for what? For respiration. And they release what? Carbon dioxide. So this carbon dioxide is taken by the plants for their process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis releases oxygen. Then again this oxygen is taken by the plants and the animals during respiration. Okay. So air plays a very important role for the survival of the organisms. Carbon dioxide is necessary for the green plants for photosynthesis, and oxygen is necessary for respiration. And during photosynthesis, oxygen is released. So green plants maintain a very important role in maintaining the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the environment. And also this moving air helps in dispersal and pollination. Whenever there is requirement of dispersal of seeds from one place to another, scattering of seeds is called what? Dispersal. So the air will help, the moving air or the wind, and pollination also will be helped by the moving air. Now we will talk about another important abiotic component, that is water, which is very important for life. As you all know, plants will absorb the water through the roots and will carry on the process of photosynthesis. Okay, and in human body, about 70% of our body is made up of water, and blood transports the substances within the human body. So this is also composed of water. About 70% of the human body consists of water. So water is very, very important. And water also dissolves the important gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, which helps the aquatic life. Those organisms that lives in water is also supported by the dissolved gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. So water is very, very important for us, right? And it is essential for all the living organisms. Now we will discuss about the soil. It is the uppermost layer of the earth's crust. As you all know, we can see the soil every time in the field, also in the grounds. Okay, so the uppermost layer of the earth's crust is called the soil, and it has 4 layers. The uppermost layer is topsoil, then the next one is subsoil, then the next one is parent, and the last one is the bed soil. And in the topsoil, the plant grows. Okay, and the lowermost one is the bedrock. So soil is, you know that it is rich in minerals like magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, like this. And if there will be no soil, then no plants can grow and there will be no food available to us. So plants grow well in the soil, and they will grow in the soil only. Without soil, plants cannot grow, and mostly the plants will grow in the loosely packed soil. When the soil is very loose, then only the plants can grow easily, because then the roots can grow deeper and deeper and then can absorb the water and nutrients from the deeper layers. So that is why plowing is necessary. Okay, the farmers plow the field to loosen it by the help of plowing machine, or by the bullocks also they can plow the field. And also this will make the soil loose so that the roots can grow deeper to fetch the minerals and the water needed by the plants. So before sowing of seeds, plowing is necessary. And animals, including earthworm and snails, they also make the soil loose by turning it. So these are all the abiotic components that we have studied now: light, air, water, soil. So in nature we can see that biotic and abiotic components are what? Closely interrelated. So biotic components will also interact with one another. So they are interdependent with one another. That also I have shown, that producers, consumers, omnivores are all interrelated. So this group of interdependent organisms that live in the same region and interact with one another, they form what? The biotic community. So this includes what? This biotic community, that means all the living organisms, when they interact with one another, they form a community, a group of population. So this includes plants, animals, and microorganisms too. So they interact with one another to maintain the balance of the system. Okay, so this, what is biotic community? This is a group of organisms. They live in the same place and they interact with one another, like plants, animals, insects, whatever. They are a group of organisms. They are interdependent with each other. Okay, because one life cannot be possible without the help of the other. All the organisms are interdependent and they interact with one another. Okay. So this is called what? The biotic community. So with this we have come to the end of the chapter. So today you read this and in the next class I will be discussing with you the exercises. Okay.